Hello everybody, I'm Andy, and today we are talking about painting! Paint. All things paint. I'm gonna give you some tips. If I'm looking over here, it's because my laptop is right here. And if I'm petting over here, it's because there's a dog over here, little Zobo. Ain't that right, Zoe? She's looking out the window, being a cutie. It looks cold out there, doesn't it, Zoe? It is -30. We don't want to talk about the weather though. We want to talk about paint. I have some tips first of all. Just kind of like a painting 101 situation. Everything that I have learned painting and that you might like to know. And then we're going to be talking about some of my opinions on painting. Paint. What to do in your house with paint. If you're curious, what I like, what I don't like. I also should say that lots of these things I have learned from my parents. Some people have commented asking, how do I know these skills? I learned them online, on YouTube, etc., and lots of them I learned from my parents. When I was growing up, my parents would buy crickety houses and flip them and sell them. They have a lot of these skills. Now, where did my parents learn it? Je ne sais pas. Okay, firstly, tips for painting and how to paint. You want to prep your walls first. I recommend scraping the walls with a scraper, like a putty knife, just to get any of the little dirt and things that might have been painted over before that might be like sticking out a little bit from the wall. We're going to scrape all those off and then fill all your little holes. You want to fill them with a very thin layer of putty to avoid sanding. Also, if you end up having to sand too much, you can see that where you sanded is a different texture than the rest of the wall. It's going to have like a much smoother surface than just a painted drywall would. Another mistake that I often see people making is in one big room, they'll take their brush and they'll do all the cutting through the whole entire room. The corners, the walls, the top, the bottom, everything, all 4 walls. And then they'll get out their roller and start rolling. You don't want to do that because when you've finished cutting all of that, it's drying. And so when it's dry over there, when you roll it, you'll be able to see where you cut and then where you rolled. They're going to be a slightly different color. You want to roll while the cutting is still wet, or cut while the rolling is still wet, whichever one you want to do first, but you really want to focus on one wall or one space if you're doing a big area. And before whatever edges you've done with the brush dry, you want to roll. Another mistake that I often see people make when they're painting, like on TikTok and whatever, is you want to try and roll from the top of the wall to the bottom of the wall, especially on the last coat and especially the last roll. If you're rolling like this and rolling over here and then kind of going up here and doing this crazy little dance, you're going to see all those different rolls, especially if the light's shining on it in certain areas. Like, you can see that you didn't roll it properly or roll it well. And like I said about rolling while the cuts that you did with the brush are still wet, you want to roll the whole wall. You don't want to like do half a wall and then come back and do the other half. You're going to see the lines in the middle. You want it to still all be pretty much wet as you're going down. Another thing we need to address with painting is the landlord special. I'm on TikTok. I've seen it. Trust me. People are painting over door hinges. They're painting over radiators. They're painting over vents. They're painting over your mom. They're painting over all sorts of things that shouldn't be painted over. Take the time. Take the switch plate covers off the wall. Like, do all of the little things that are going to make the paint job actually look good and professional. Just take the time and do all the things. And don't just get sloppy with it. If anybody watched my closet makeover, you saw me struggling to pick a light yellow, buttery yellow color. And I actually was talking to a friend of mine who's in interior design, and she was like, when you're picking a light color, you want it to look pretty much white. Like, you literally want to pick the one that looks white that's slightly yellow. So when picking a light color, if you want it to be like a light, really light color or a light pastel, you want it to look almost white. Otherwise, it's going to look pretty bright, especially in rooms that don't have a lot of windows or lighting. And in most lighting, it will still be like the light pastel version of that color that you're trying to go for, but it won't be too bright like a kid's room or whatever. Also, when picking a white, you don't want to go into the paint store and just ask for white paint. They'll probably give you pure white paint, and that's probably not what you're going for. Whether you want it to lean like slightly beige or yellow or like gray or blue, whether you want it to be warmer toned white or a cooler toned white. I personally prefer a warmer toned white that has like a beige undertone. You want to go actually to the paint samples and pick one out that reads slightly warm or cool, whatever you're going for. You don't want to just pick out a pure white. That is like the hospital, like garage, bright white paint that we're not going for. Most people aren't going for that. If you are going for that, then go get pure white. But most people, I think, aren't going for that. And some people don't know. You don't want to just buy pure stark white paint. Personally, I'm not really sure about picking dark colors as much. I haven't picked dark colors as often. I haven't really painted very many rooms dark because I find that they show dust and dirt, blah, 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 whatever. I don't love dark walls. My only recommendation is maybe trying to go for like a bit of a warmer dark tone. Even if it's a blue, you can still pick kind of like a warmer dark blue rather than like a cold toned navy that would look kind of like a teen boys room. Even like a gray, you can still find that gray that leans warm. Okay, those are all the basics as far as painting goes that are kind of just general rules of thumb that I know of painting. Now let's get into my opinions. Time for the fun part. Time for me to talk trash. One thing that I've been seeing all over the place that I have to address: black houses. People are painting the exterior of their homes black. The whole thing. The whole entire house is black. It looks like a haunted house. I'm serious. This is happening. I know. It's crazy. I just don't think this is timeless. I don't think people are going to like this for long. I think they're going to regret it. Also, the sun's going to beat down on that black house and really heat it up, right? Am I wrong? I think that's how sun works. I also love watching these girls, the Van Wives, on YouTube, and they put this siding on their house, which is a cool concept. It's a company that makes burnt siding because burnt wood lasts longer, it doesn't rot as easily. So it is a cool concept, but it looks like the house was on fire and a giant came and like blew it out or something. I'm sorry, not to be a hater, but it really does. And especially if you go for the black siding and the black trim and a black roof, it just really doesn't look very inviting to me. The burnt siding concept is cool. I would probably just paint it. And then the people who are just painting their houses and the trim black, I don't know, it's very bizarre. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? Which leads me into my next point. I'm also not a big fan of a white house with black trim around the windows and the doors. Sorries. Lots of places are doing this, and I'm seeing lots of apartment buildings are getting painted the pure white I'm talking about. They don't have a warm toned white or anything like that. It's like a bright, like reflective snow white, and then they'll do the trim black, and it's such a stark difference. It just, again, doesn't look very inviting to me, and I don't know why you wouldn't go for more like softer tones or more fun colors like black and white. Why are we doing this? Even if you want to do a dark brown or a dark gray trim or something like that, I think just the black and white is such a stark difference. It doesn't look good to me. Next, we need to talk about color drenching. Yes, it's one of the top trends of the year, if you haven't heard. People are color drenching. They're drenching things in color. What is color drenching? It's when you take one paint color and you paint the walls, the trim, the doors, the ceiling, you paint everything all the same color. And it looks really good in photos. I thought it looked awesome. I actually tried it in my closet and then realized it just looked like I had painted everything in a primer and I hadn't gotten to painting the actual color and of the walls and the trim yet. Back to the landlord special, it also just looks like someone did the landlord special. Like they were too lazy to tape off the trim or to paint it a separate color, so they just slapped the paint on everything. That's what it looks like to me, okay? The only time that I would ever paint the trim and the walls the same color is if I was doing white, because when the trim is bright white and then the walls are an off-white, it can make the walls look a little bit dirty right next to the trim, I find. And if you do want your room to be all one color, I would recommend doing the trim just even a slightly different color than the walls. Just a slightly darker tone or lighter tone than the walls, so that, yeah, it doesn't look like you just got lazy and slapped the paint on everything. Another mistake that I see some people do, I mean, this is just personal preference, but still, is painting the trim around a door a different color than you paint the actual door. To me, it looks like you either forgot to paint the trim or you forgot to paint the door. It just looks off, like you didn't completely finish the job. This girl that I watch on YouTube, her name is Phoebe Taylor, and she does really cool interior videos. I like her stuff a lot. And she did this makeover, and it looks beautiful. It was like her childhood bedroom that she decided to make over at her parents' house. And she color drenched the whole room, which it actually did look good. But this is what I mean, where I'm like, does it actually look good in person, or does it just look good in the photos and the video? I don't know. We'll never know. But she didn't paint the doors of her closet and her door to the bedroom. She left them white, and then the trim and the rest of the walls were a different, like, kind of beigey color, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, she was even asking, she was like, why does this feel off? Should I be doing this? I'm not sure. It feels like I need something to break up this wall rather than it all just being one color. And ultimately, she did end up painting the closet doors the same color that she had done the trim and the walls, which is great. And then she painted the door a very, like, red color, kind of like a raspberry red, which I absolutely love that color. And I love the idea of just painting the door. but she didn't paint the trim around that door, which it makes sense that you would think that all of your trim should be the same color and then you could just paint the door a different color, but you actually want to paint that trim around the door the same color as the door. Even if all the rest of the trim is a different color, just those 3 pieces of trim around the door being the same color as the door makes it feel on purpose. But the room still looked amazing. I absolutely love that makeover that she did. And it doesn't look bad. It still looks really good. I just feel like it would look more on purpose and finish if the trim was the same color as the door. All right, the next point is just no feature walls. Can we stop? Can we stop putting a diagonal piece of tape across the room and painting one half one color and one half the other color? That one is an extreme version, but can we even just stop doing a feature wall in a room? Yet again, the theme of these painting opinions I seem to have is that it looks unfinished. It looks like, oh, I ran out of paint so I couldn't finish that one wall. Or it looks like, oh yeah, we're trying out this new color. We're seeing if we're gonna like it in the room and then we're gonna paint the other 3 walls once we decide. Just commit. If you want a full wall to be that color, you gotta commit. Just do it in the whole room. It will look way better than just having the one wall randomly painted. It feels very, very random. Which actually leads me to my next point, and I was watching this guy Noah Daniels video. He does amazing interior videos, and he was talking about how when you want to paint like the ceiling or maybe paint like the bottom half of the wall in your room or something, you want it to have like a physical trim or some sort of something that breaks up the paint. Rather than just doing like a tape line, like so that it would just be a random line where all of a sudden the paint is a different color on your wall. You want to just put in even like a little trim piece, a little bit of molding around the edge of the room, and then paint the ceiling a different color. It makes it feel a lot more on purpose and not just like, hey, what could we do that would be fun and quirky in here with paint? And it doesn't need to be like some fancy, expensive type of molding or something. If you just put even a simple trim piece, if you want to have a different colored wall on the bottom versus the top, or the different colored ceiling, yeah, just putting like a simple trim makes it have like more of a stopping point, rather than just like a random line that cuts your wall in half. Which, on the theme of painting fun feature walls, I really would recommend that people get wallpaper instead of just painting random squiggles and designs on their wall. Yet another thing that TikTok really promoted was painting crazy squiggles, fun little designs on your wall. You know, we all saw the arch that goes behind your bed, things like that. Those are fun, and everybody kind of says like, oh no, I'll totally get my deposit back, I can just paint over this. Or, oh, it's not really that big of a deal because if I get sick of it, I'll just paint over it. When you paint something on the wall, that layer of paint is now thicker than the paint that was behind it. So if you paint an arch on your wall and then try to cover that wall with just, like, let's say a plain white paint, you can see the ridge of where the arch was. Or you can see the ridges of where all those squiggles and those crazy little circles and things were. And the only way to really get rid of that is either to re-drywall or to try and like mud all of those lines and then try and like smooth them out and sand them down so that, yeah, it kind of just completely ruins your wall. I did it in my closet. I did like crazy squiggles and stuff, and I spent so long mudding all of those lines and trying to sand them down and smooth them down, and you still can see some of the parts where there's little ridges from the squiggles and stuff that I have painted on there. It's just not really worth it. Yeah, so I would recommend wallpapering instead, or even just like getting a big giant piece of art. Or if you need something fun and quirky, put a gallery wall up, okay? I know I'm not the biggest fan, but put a gallery wall up. Anything other than painting on the actual physical wall and basically ruining the drywall. And those are all my tips and opinions on paint. Thank you so much for watching my video on all things paint. I hope you learned a thing or two, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Brendan and I are gonna go to Costco now. We need to restock on all the good stuff, you know, the coconut milk, the tofu, the produce, the whatever else they got. We're gonna go see. He's gonna get a hot dog, he said. We're currently watching Ted Lasso. We're absolutely loving it so much. It's so good. It's like my new favorite show. I can't believe it. It's so awesome. For some reason, when people talked about liking the show Ted Lasso, I thought it was like a scary show. And I said that to Brendan, and he was like, yeah, I definitely thought it was like about a Western or something. Like Lasso. But it's not. It's like a comedy. It's amazing. And it's about soccer. Football! The good kind. Just kidding. And yeah, it's freezing cold outside. It's -30 here in Cowtown. That's okay though. We're already in February, so we know the end is near. My birthday party is this weekend. Let's go. 30! I'll let you know how it goes. I think it's going to be Amazing.
That's amazing.
My sister sent me a picture. She got a life-size cardboard cutout of me. Yep. So that's gonna be there. That's gonna be fun. Get to take a photo with that. It actually is a photo of me from before I started working out, and so I'm like 40 pounds heavier in this photo. It was from her wedding, which I look good, but it's kind of hilarious because I'm like, if I take a photo with this cardboard cutout, it's literally gonna look like a before and after. And I also have some newer friends from this run club I've been going to, and they're gonna see this and be like, who is that? That's not what you look like at all. In fact, I actually showed one of my friends the photo of it that she had sent me, and she was like, that looks nothing like you. And I was like, yeah, dude, I was like 200 pounds, that's why. But it's all good, whatever. Weight is just a number, baby.
Age is just a number, baby.
Alright, enough talking. It's Costco time, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Hopefully next Thursday.